right there.
Fellas.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Welcome, everybody, to the 9:30 a.m. Monday, May 20th work session. Hello, Mark. I'd like to have the Secretary and Treasurer start with the
Okay. Scott Horitz,
I'm here.
Ed Warner, present. Richard T. Marin. Matt Parsons.
Present.
Joe McLaughlin. We're all here.
All
Mr.
right.
President.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, welcome, everybody. I see that we have folks from the village of Southampton here for a discussion about the Lake Agawam filtration system. I'd like you to come on up to the board and introduce yourselves and sign in, and we'll get right to work with you here.
Is there a sign-in paper?
Right here,
Yep,
sir.
right here.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. Thanks. Sure.
Thank you.
It's under the informational chart you guys are furnishing us.
Thank you.
Jessica, would you like one?
Yes, thank you for the record, thanks.
Okay, there we are.
Good. All right.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. President, for having us come to talk to you a little bit about the history of the Lake Agawam Conservancy, of which Chuck Scarborough, resident on First Neck Lane, has been involved with for, 20 years almost, Chuck?
Yes,
Almost.
two organizations, actually, 19 years with something that we founded, my neighbor and I. I'm Chuck Scarborough, by the way, and I'm delighted to be here, and thank you all for having us and devoting some of your time this morning to this topic. It's extremely important to us. 19 years ago, Bill, we formed the Lake Agawam Conservancy Association, LACA, and that was, my neighbor and I did that to try to address the increasing difficulties we're having with the lake. And we made a lot of progress with the cooperation of the village over the years, but then 5 years ago, because it was a battle that we were only peripherally beginning to contain, which was the blue-green algae problem that was getting worse by the year. And a lot of the amelioration efforts that we engaged in with the cooperation of the village were having some effect, but it wasn't really curing the problem at all. So John Paulson stepped up and said, why don't we form a new organization, patterned after the Central Park Conservancy. They call it the Lake Agawam Conservancy. That's been in existence for 5 years now. And over that 5-year period, we've accomplished a lot of stuff, some of it with the cooperation of this particular board. And one of our first efforts that we made was a bioswale at the south end of Lake Agawam to intercept the runoff, the surface runoff, and have it consumed. And the runoff, the problem with that, and aside from just automobile contaminants, is, as you well know, it's the nitrogen and phosphorus that is the fuel for blue-green algae. And the point is to try to intercept it at the surface. And so with the cooperation and partnership we have with the board, because this is a public-private partnership that we have, and it works very well that way. And so we built that bioswale. It was one of a number of bioswales that we have been partnered on and partnered with around the village. Linden Lane, we have a bioswale. We have a bioswale opposite the library, and that helps a lot. And there were a Gin Lane bioswale, and we also, I think, are about to enter an agreement on another bioswale to manage the bioswale over
To help maintain them, yeah.
Where we plan to maintain it. We would be the stewards of it, a stewardship agreement. So all of this helps a bit. But from my own experience, we are addressing only a tiny portion of the problem. And The good news is, I'll give you the headline, that we have something right here that we're going to show you in a couple of minutes that is going to make the lake safe for recreation within the next few years. After 19 years of struggling to try to restore the lake, we have something that will shortcut the process. And because as you know, I mean, you're well aware of the problem with the nitrogen and phosphorus that enters the lake to feed the blue-green algae. And it comes from throughout the entire watershed that goes north of Sunrise Highway. It's a large inverted teardrop that feeds in the groundwater. Every septic system in that entire watershed is feeding nitrogen and phosphorus into the groundwater, which makes its way into the lake. And in this process, from our science advisor, the one thing I learned that was really counterintuitive is, according to Chris Gobler, it doesn't matter how far you are from the lake. Your septic system has the same impact. The only difference is the time it takes to get there. Which I thought, I assumed that the houses closest to the lake would be the problem. Not so.
Just gets there faster.
Yeah, it just gets there faster. But there's a legacy plume that we're dealing with. So all the steps we've taken with the bioswales, the buffers that we're doing to try to prevent it, the Conservancy also is involved in education, in trying to teach landscapers and homeowners the best landscaping practices to reduce the use of nitrogen, phosphorus, and fertilizers that make their way into the groundwater, then into the lake. All of that has focused mostly on surface runoff stuff, except for the stuff that infiltrates down. The first major effort to intercept the groundwater is something called a permeable reactive barrier, which we have determined that we put in that Lake Agawam Park. And I'll show you this because it'd be kind of helpful just to see where the park is. On this is the north end of Lake Agawam, so the bioswale goes in. Can you all see this?
Yeah.
The bioswale is going to go in there. It's invisible once it's installed, but it's basically, you dig down and it's wood chips, and it intercepts the groundwater. It's important here because we've identified a plume coming in.
Which is critically important for the
Yeah.
success of a permeable reactive barrier. So
Yes.
identify that that's an area that
Yeah.
has a plume.
Chris has done a lot of testing in there. And so if we can put that in, we can intercept it, we can neutralize some of that stuff coming into the lake. That's, I don't know, probably 10% of the issue. All of the surface stuff is another 10% of the issue. The biggest problem, 70% of the nitrogen and phosphorus getting into the lake comes from the septic systems. 20% is coming from the business district. So the long-term fix is to cure that, and that is to put in a sewer system, at least in the business district. That'll kill 20% of it. That's probably a lot of what's coming in right here.
Yeah.
And then we upgrade the septic system throughout the entire watershed. Once that's done, then you will have cured the problem of the inputs, which is the long-term solution. And we have to stay on that. We have to stay on the upgrades of the septic systems, and we have to get that sewer system approved and built for the long-term health of the lake. In the meantime, we have, with the help of the town and the federal government, secured funding for something called an algae harvester, made by a company called AECOM. And we have a plan now that is one step away from going into force, which will clean up this lake within 3 years of the implementation, the installation of this algae harvester. It'll make it recreationally safe within 3 years, according to the company.
As opposed to the public health and safety issue that occurs there from time to time now.
Yes, exactly. I mean, this is dangerous to pets. It aerosolizes when there are heavy winds from the lake. It's not good to breathe. So what this process, I just did a discussion with the fellow who runs this company. They have significant experience with this.
Mm-hmm.
This is the location. To make this happen, this is the Dosher property that currently is a park, right here. Not this portion, but this portion here is the Dosher property. And in order to be able to build anything on that, it had to be alienated, which was really a heavy lift. That has to go through Albany.
Yeah, we're familiar with that.
You know the process.
Yes, we know the.
Well, we're there.
Yeah.
We're there. We are up to the point of referendum.
The governor signed off on it in September. Yeah.
Yeah.
Alien support.
So,
Yeah.
let me tell you how this happened, how we were able to come up with this plan to alienate this. You know what the state law is, and you have to replace it with an equal or better piece of property.
Yep.
Well, on the other side of the lake over here, the Wyman property, John Paulson bought that. It's 2 lots. He has agreed to sell at his cost one of the lots, the larger of the 2 lots, to the town.
CPF, yeah.
You use CPF funds. And that will be the swap. This will become useful land, or right here, right? That'll become useful land. We have a new park, a bigger park, a better park, on the other side, that's half of the old Wyman property. John, this is not part of this discussion, but John would like to be able to donate the other half to make that a large park. But he has a condition that we won't get into here because it's not part of this discussion. The point is, this is an agreement. As soon as we can get that done, we can then begin to install this plant. So, and that referendum is on the ballot in November.
Which is a townwide referendum because the park was purchased, this park was
CPF.
also purchased with CPF money.
Yeah.
So it has to be a townwide referendum in order to alienate it in
So we have
exchange
to
for the
sell
other
the
one.
proposal to everybody.
Right, so you got a
Yeah.
bigger park and you have
Yeah, you got a better
elimination of public health and
But
safety issues.
let me bear down on this because this is really interesting stuff. This is the latest plan. Originally, the plan was to use the Dosher land only and build the plant right here, the filtration plant of the lake. Got some resistance from this neighbor right here, who was worried about a couple of things, the noise, the smell. So the new suggested plan is to take parking spaces from the parking lot here, build the harvester here. By the way, there is no smell, and there is very little noise, I'll explain in a minute. But to take these parking spaces, build the harvester here, and then add parking spaces back here on Dosher property, which we can do once it's alienated. The net is that we gain 4 parking spaces.
49.
So it's,
Thank you.
yeah, we give up 45, we build 49.
Right.
So it's a gain on parking spaces. We move the whole thing away from this fellow to satisfy him. And from here, the piping is all underground. There's nothing visible. The only thing visible on the lake surface when this is installed is going to be a dock, a standard normal dock. And that's for accessing the pumps, which are underwater.
Okay.
No noise from the pumps because they sit suspended beneath the surface. The plant draws water from the north end of the lake and then filters it 3 million gallons a day, running 24 hours. And then it returns the fresh water, which is almost, we saw this, we had a demonstration, what was it, Bill? It was almost drinking water
Yeah,
quality
yeah,
that comes
yeah.
out of this thing. It returns it to the south end of the lake. So there is going to be a flow from south to north and filtering the water. The lake, I think, has something like 200,000 gallons. So every couple of months, you have a total turnover of the lake water.
Yeah, the lake is 60 acres. The surface.
200 million.
Must
Two
be,
hundred,
it's way more than
yeah.
200,000,
Yeah.
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 That's a couple of swimming
That's
pools.
why, that's why I have a bookkeeper.
Yeah.
So, 200 million gallons. So with this will do 3 million gallons a day. So every couple of months it's a turnover. The slurry that is filtered out, that has the blue-green algae in it, is picked up once a day by a water truck, maybe 3,000 to 5,000 gallon water truck style vehicle that comes in, loads up and leaves, and it takes less than an hour for it to collect it. This, according to AECOM, within 6 months, we will see a noticeable difference in the quality of the lake because it's taking all that biomass out faster than it can reproduce. By the second year, we should see a really significant difference in the lake, and by the third year, they say it should be, the water should be recreational quality.
Wow.
And that, with the plant running then, once it gets to that point, the lake becomes self-sustaining to some extent, because,
If that's running all the time, though.
what?
As long as that's running all the time, it remains.
Yes,
self-sustaining.
exactly.
Yeah.
It has to keep running, and we can cut it back, because the lake, once you get enough of the blue-green algae out,
It's still a
You get
crutch
beneficial.
until we solve the immediate problem.
Right,
Oh,
but
yeah.
we're hoping
This
that,
is just a continuous crutch until actual septic is addressed and surface
Yeah.
You gotta,
runoff.
yeah, you gotta push it
Proper lawn
back.
care and.
we need the sewer system,
Yeah,
yeah.
we can't unplug it and take it away and expect.
You're
it to-
beyond its equilibrium to remain anything healthy. If you could push it back
Yeah.
past that equilibrium, then find that balance
Yeah.
while you're working on the upland issues, the septic systems, all of the above, then you could continue to back off on that.
Yeah, we can
As you
reduce
get
the
going.
number of days or the number of hours of operation once you
push it
yeah,
back.
Yeah, but
And
it'll have to
what
operate.
what do you do with the sludge that's pumped out every day? Where does that go?
They've identified a site about halfway up the island that will accept the
And it's
sludge.
bioremediated up
Correct.
there or something
Yeah,
like that?
yeah.
You could actually make use of it.
I'm sure you could.
You could
Blue
turn it into biofuel.
Blue-green algae could probably turn right into
Yeah.
fertilizer.
Yeah.
So once you get this up and running and show the public that it's a viable project, then you're gonna get more buy-in from the public. So it's gonna be a win-win situation, as I see it.
Also, there's one extra benefit. Because you're putting the clean water in the south end of the lake, whenever the lake gets overfilled and needs to be drained, you have to do that cut and pump water into the ocean out of the lake or let it
Pipe,
flow.
there's a
The
pipe.
Pipe,
Yeah,
yeah,
the little
the
pump.
pipe.
Yeah. When that happens, instead of that green sludge going into the ocean, you're gonna have the cleanest water in the lake going into the ocean. So that's I think, a great environmental improvement immediately.
All the
You'll see.
people at the
Healthy-
bathing beach
healthy-
will be very
It'll be
happy.
dilution.
We've had quite a few calls in our office over the years about green.
It's dilution prior to the
Now,
dilution.
just from an aesthetic point of view, just so you'll see, this is what the installation will look like. If you drive around the parking lot, I think it's probably an improvement aesthetically, if you drive back there now and see what it looks like. This is the plant here, and this is what it looks like from 6 feet up, from a normal vision. This is what you'd see if you were in the parking lot. And this is a kiosk that is planned, it's an educational kiosk, because this is a big environmental project, and we think it'll be
To
important.
tell you what's going on here.
Yeah,
That's perfect for the community.
bring school kids in and show them what's happening, why it's necessary, why this, because if you look at long history, you know what happened. This lake was fine until about 100 years ago. It just got overwhelmed by the amount of human input into
Exactly.
this thing.
Education is so important.
Yeah, and this is the last small slide right here. Just to show you, AECOM wanted to show the kind of fencing that they were contemplating. Also, a suggestion that we use on the new parking spots, that we might want to consider using this permeable
Yeah,
Yeah.
we
concrete.
were actually discussing that for a lot of our parking lots, and I think
Yeah.
this is a stellar idea.
Yeah, I like that idea a lot. And I think we should really consider that. But, oops, sorry. So anyway, I think this is a pretty easy sell, but it has to pass the referendum in November if we're gonna get this thing done. I don't see it's funded, it's not gonna put any burden on the taxpayers. We have the money set aside already, we got a fabulous federal grant on this, as well as the town and state.
Senator Schumer got us $5 million.
Yeah,
That's very nice.
Yeah.
And I like that it's hitched away from that neighbor,
Yeah,
like for all intents and purposes,
Yeah.
like.
well, the noise level on that, let me just tell you what they tell me about there is no smell. No smell because we're not dewatering. When you dewater,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, because it
get some
becomes a
decomposition.
yeah.
Another benefit is that you're kind of dredging with this thing, because the blue-green algae migrates. It goes to it feeds on the sediment and rises to the surface. And the sediment,
The organic material in the
yeah,
sediment.
you've got about 17% of the problem is sediment flux, the phosphorus and the nitrogen in the sediment of the lake, because of all the decay that goes down there. So it feeds, it goes to the surface and gets sunlight, and so when you're taking it out, you're taking biomass out of the lake. You're taking the nitrogen and phosphorus that's absorbed out of the lake.
Could I just interrupt real quick?
Yeah.
Could you talk a little bit about the actual method that's going to be going on inside of those sheds?
I can't, because it's a filtration process.
Right.
That filters the blue, I don't think it's very complicated, but it filters out, and I don't know how they do it
Is it
without
a
getting.
mechanical with a
Basically,
sand
yeah, it's like a
filter?
squirrel
I don't know what it is, you don't have to, I could get that to you from AECOM.
I'm very
someone told me
curious.
it's
Like, I do
similar
water
to
filtration all day, every
what
day.
filters do in an aquarium. That's
Yeah,
what
that's
I've
what I do
heard. I've
professionally.
heard it been compared to
Yeah.
what
So I'm
aquariums
curious because
do.
like that's what I do all day, every day. I'm curious as like what
Like
method
a
is being
swirl
used.
The pumps that run the
Well, source separating, you mean like
the
a
whole
bird cage? It only works in
process.
saltwater.
Are they diesel, are they
They're-
electric?
There are three pumps.
Still make solar panels and do a solar?
Right, it's-
You know, do it all green.
You could do a solar roof.
We could look
on
at that,
the
because we
But
could
I'm just
use
so curious, 'cause,
Dozier
like,
Park
they're just doing it on a
as
huge
a,
scale, what I
for
do.
solar.
If you're looking to clean up the environment,
Yeah.
and it would be best if you
Yeah.
put it out there as a green,
Yeah.
green initiative, which, everybody in the government wants to do the solar, and, and I think it would be really smart for you guys to look into that, I mean, powering it that way.
Yeah.
So what do you need from the trustees, because this is, like, these, beyond the pipes that are in the ponds, it's kind of out of our jurisdiction.
That's kind
right?
of
No.
what you're supposed
Well,
to.
no. We wanted to
Support for the
update you
project.
Yeah.
on it, because it's Lake Agawam, which
Okay,
you guys
yeah,
have
I'm just
jurisdiction
curious
over.
If there wasn't like some nuance that was changing within
No,
the dynamics.
no,
No.
there's really no
of our
change.
jurisdiction.
But Chip, it's also just to get your guys' support, because we're hoping that then we have the support of the town trustees when it goes to public referendum. And the referendum really is for alienating this parkland in exchange for other parkland. But we have to explain to people that this is gonna help clean the water of Lake Agawam.
Education process
Yeah.
from our board,
Yeah.
working on water quality issues.
Right.
And the reality is, we do own it, we do have jurisdiction of it, and when it comes to pushing back public health and safety issues and water quality, we should be all hands on deck.
Yeah.
So I think that's,
That's great. I really appreciate it, because it's been a long haul, believe me, we've been trying to do this for a long time. And I can see the goal line, the finish line right now. Not the finish line, but I can see getting the lake safe and people being able to recreate there safely.
well, I think is interesting is to see if the 3-year timeline comes to fruition,
Yeah.
because you could also utilize this as a template for other, areas that we have in the township that we're struggling with, Mill Pond's another one that we've been struggling with.
As long as this doesn't become an excuse for homeowners to practice bad practices for
No,
their
no.
lawn care, like, that's the problem with something
Yeah.
like this, is
Yeah.
because you're not really solving the problem, you're kind of like,
Exactly.
it's a crutch, but, I mean, improper lawn care is extremely detrimental to this lake. We all know that. Using pre-emergence at the wrong time, the wrong temperature, the wrong quantities, the wrong amounts of nitrogen. So as long as it's just like, well, we can do whatever we want, we can put whatever lawn care scheme we want, because we just got this thing pumping away on the other end of the lake. So
Yeah.
it's kind of like,
Find your sense
the
of way.
education's great, and this system is great, as long as it doesn't become an excuse for people to still misuse the practices
Right.
on their own
Right.
property.
One thing that jumps out to me right away on the first picture you were showing us is like directly to the north on that park. I mean, that is some very green grass there. Like, how much fertilizer is being put onto that green lawn space?
Right here?
That whole thing. That's the whole, I mean,
That's
like,
the
how
park.
much?
That's
the park.
I
That's
know,
the
but
park.
like, think about like how, that's clearly being fertilized.
I don't know, is it?
I from the
I'd
amount
have
of
to
green
speak
there.
to, the Parks Department to see what they're
Yeah.
doing and
Yeah.
using there, yeah. We can
That's why they're looking
certainly.
to put a PBR in there to.
What if they cut back on fertilizer?
I mean, yeah.
like,
Well, that's-
Let me reiterate about the fertilizers, and it's critical that we stop that. But the giant, the elephant in the room is the septic systems.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
that-
also the problem with improper lawn care, and I think we
Yeah.
gotta like just not stick with this nitrogen narrative,
Yeah.
because nitrogen, it's basically telling us, it's telling us that there's a lot of impact going into the pond.
Right.
But we can't afford all those other tests.
No, we can't.
We can't afford the heavy metals test, and I'm sure DuPont doesn't want us to do those tests. So when you have nitrogen that's being applied and mismanaged on lawn care, and we're not utilizing like good grass seed species instead of using a lot of nitrogen, I think that the village should take the first step in and have that shown in your little, display, saying, look, we've toned down, we're okay with having clover that fixes the nitrogen in the lawn. Like, it's okay, we don't have to put pre-emergent down on a parkland where kids run around and roll in the grass. And we know that there's huge impacts within this park. So it has, if we're gonna make this an educational thing, it has to be all in as an educational thing and not just a quick fix. So that's. where I'm at
Government
with
should
it.
lead the way.
Yeah.
Well, we're always advocating for buffers. I mean, every project that we work on, is talking about buffers and education. And I think we're lacking in many instances is just simple respect. You know, you gotta respect the resources, respect what the regulations are, have respect for each other, and I think that, look, we're all trying to get around the table to resolve issues here. And I think we need to, you know, work together, everyone's got some skin in the game, we'll be successful. And we certainly all have skin in the game. This is all over the place, these issues, and it does affect our quality of life. And that's why I think guys like yourselves and this board, why we, you know, serve and why we work so hard to try and resolve some of these issues that started 100 years ago.
Yeah.
A lot of decision-making that was made, to my fellow trustees' points, on the upland is now coming home to roost in our watershed. And we need to recognize that and figure out what we need to do to kind of turn it back. And I applaud you for, you know, coming here, and it is an important project, and I would love to see in 3 years' time you know, a swimmable, you know, recreational resource here, and not be worrying about a public health and safety hazard in one of the nicest villages that there is in the state. So,
Yeah, I've been working on these projects for 18 years. When Fred Haver, when I first became a trustee, met with you over the lily pads and the phragmites and blue-green algae. And so, I mean, I see what we've done on our parking lot on the south end, and I think, you know, we always said everybody's got to buy in the community, and I think we finally have gotten this accomplished. We're getting the buy-in, and now we got the grant from the federal government. So we got a lot of, you know, people working on this project. So I'm excited to maybe, you know, see it in my tenure
Yeah.
on the board of it finally being solved.
Yeah, and you have a plan also for putting in some additional bioswales at the south end of the lake.
Yep.
And that permeable parking, I mean, that's like,
Yeah,
it's very, because, I mean, we were looking at a piece of property at Circle Beach, and it's just like, oh my God, let's just make the whole parking lot permeable.
Yeah.
I mean, like,
Yeah.
it's not that hard,
Yeah.
instead of worrying about drainage.
Right.
Let's
Yeah.
make the whole parking lot permeable, so, yeah, it's good.
One final note here, I would tell you, is the machinery, if we can finally get the sewer system in, and a significant number of upgrades and septic systems around town, in the watershed, this is portable. We can move it to another pond.
That's nice.
so get
That's
this
nice.
under control and then
Yeah.
use it
Yeah.
someplace else.
Yeah.
I mean, that's,
yeah.
and that's key, because you've got a template going on here.
Yeah.
You know, and that's,
Is there any movement to how does this correlate to the southeast end? I know that we also own property along there, the buffer there, or even on Palm Lane. How does this relate to that, if any? Is there any way to do a buffer along Palm Lane? Is there any room over there to do a buffer on Palm Lane or?
Pond Lane? No,
Yeah.
not as it's,
It's you know the road is very close to the lake there,
there's no
so
room.
it's I think not as it's currently
What
configured.
about along Gin Lane, the south?
Yeah, well, there has been done some there. You know that. I mean, there's signs even actually at the southeast corner on the current turn there that say that you know there were bioswales put in there.
Bioswales, but no planting buffer. There's no. I knew a couple years ago there was.
Well, the Lake Agawam Conservancy was going to be doing some buffer down
yeah,
there.
it's,
Yeah.
they're almost synonymous. The purpose of it is the same. The buffer that you plant, you know, we encourage homeowners to have natural vegetation for at least 30, 40 feet.
Right.
And that does the same thing as what a bioswale, it's the same thing except it's dipped.
Right.
And it collects the water a little more readily. But getting the runoff to absorb into the, and be used and consumed by the plants, by native plants at the water's edge before the nitrogen, phosphorus and stuff can get into the lake.
Does this only run when the blue-green algae is active, or is this year-round?
I'm not quite sure. I think it may run year-round.
I think it's year-round.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, the way you're
Yeah.
selling, or not selling it, but
Yeah.
I mean, you're saying that it's like for blue-green algae control, so I didn't know if it's only running when there's blue-green algae.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I'd have to, that's a good question, but
Yeah. No, I think
my
they were
suspicion is, yeah.
anticipating it would be running at least
So just
for
about- 'cause,
the
I mean,
majority of
winter
the
you
year,
don't
maybe
get-
not in the middle of
In winter,
winter.
you don't really need a
No,
biofilter
exactly.
because
Yeah.
it's inactive.
Right.
There's no algae in the
Yeah.
pond.
Yeah.
It's kind of dormant.
well, you know, I applaud the collaboration and the ability to, you know, get the resources necessary to, you know, achieve this. I certainly, you know, been in this building for 15 years, and in this seat for 11 years, and I know how hard it is at times to get resources, especially sustainable resources. So I applaud that effort that you've been able to. And it's a true example of where, properly, administered and respected public and private partnerships and can
Yeah.
work
Yeah.
in these scenarios. And I think you get a better result when everybody's got some skin in the game.
Yeah.
And we all
Absolutely.
certainly have skin in this game.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah,
Thanks
yeah.
for coming in.
Thank you.
Yeah, if you could find out if it runs year-round or not, I'm curious to see that. Yeah. Yeah. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, moving on for our next discussion about the Mecox Oyster Relay, trustees Warner and Marin.
We initiated an oyster relay with the help of the New York State DEC and the Marine Patrol. Was it last week or 2 weeks ago in Mecox? We moved between 50 and 60 bushel of oysters with the help of several baymen. We relayed them to the certified area of the pond that's certified during from December 1st until the end of April. And we're looking to the future as doing a larger relay or transplant to maybe Quantic Bay. I know Chip, you had some thoughts about expanding on this and, working.
Yeah, I mean, I think we just really wanted to get a biological assessment, what was on the north side. Because we didn't really get the permit in a timely manner enough to really get all hands on deck with other baymen, because their dredges were already off their boats and they were on to another fishery. But I think we really wanted to get a biological assessment and the health of that north side and the feasibility of how many oysters we could get out of there in a timely manner to do a big time relay. And I think Ed and I both came to the conclusion that if we had enough hands on deck and the resources to relay them on the back end in the other embayments, that it could be very, very, very successful.
Yeah, and we can utilize that as
And
a.
also to see if we could actually catch a set on the oysters that we rolled over, and I basically primarily worked a very tight area, so we know the area that's rolled and the area that's not rolled. So hopefully, I'd like to see if we can get, like I said, a male oyster. Primarily, they're hermaphrodites for the first 18 months of their life, so I'd love to see some males mixed in with all the females. I know that they can change when they sense stress and turn to male if they need males, but it's nice to have young oysters as well as older oysters.
If I could trouble you guys, if you guys are doing Quantuck, maybe we can throw a couple in front of the Spionk River, and there's some certified water.
Well, you have, see, when you do these relays, you need to be able to put them in an area where you can actually have enforcement oversight. So we can't just pick areas here and there and, other areas. And, when you, application to the DEC, you need to say how many fishermen, where you're gonna catch the oysters, the date, where they're coming out of, where they're gonna end up, and you have to come up with a plan in order to accommodate all of that. Quantic, we've had closed to shell fishing, the trustees have had closed for over 30 years. It's not closed by the DEC standards in the winter season. So we would, if picking another area, you'd need to verify what that is. You'd need to do a shoreline survey of the area before you put the
Yes,
oysters and
that's-
shellfish in. It gets a little more complicated than just taking the oysters and moving them.
Well, I'd love to get involved. I was just messing around over there the other day in front of the Spionk River, and I was
Okay.
just kind of dragging a rake around a little bit to see
Yeah.
it's nice hard bottom, and
Yeah.
there's quite a bit of actual chunks of growth there.
There's plenty of oyster shells there. Is
Yeah,
it?
I'm just thinking they just need
We
something to
also
start
have to
spawning
put
on
in the
it.
back of our minds that that set from Quantic is 30 days away from wherever it's going to end up.
Right.
So don't think that where you have the oysters
No.
is where your spat's going to end up.
Right.
Yeah, I mean,
Ed, could you just also expand it? But you had an excellent idea of how we're going to utilize the macro-cultured oysters from Cornell.
Yeah, traditionally, we would just get regular seed oysters from Cornell and sprinkle them around the bay. We're looking to do a macroculture, basically spat on shell, and they do it in linear feet. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna get X amount of linear feet from Cornell, and I'd like to see it put in Quantic Bay in 6 or 8 different areas, just laid down so it can settle on the bottom, get some substrate that's not too soft so it doesn't go in the bottom, and then look at it in 6 months to see if the oysters survive, see if there's any coral that's set on them, and pick a couple of those areas that are successful, transplants for the macroculture, and then put some oysters from mecox on top of them, so that you're basically building up mini reefs in Quantic Bay, kind of like what the college has done in Cork Canal and by Sedge Island. So,
Are you putting them in bags, the
The
spout on shell?
macroculture will be set in bags.
they'll be set in bags.
Right.
And then they'll be actually like blocks of oysters on shell.
Right.
So you can take them and put them in a specific area.
And also the coral is kind of what Ed was really worried about in past relays. They've run oyster relays that sometimes the coral just chokes the oysters right
Yeah.
out. So he wanted to kind of get an indicator of what's healthy spots to put
Sure.
the mecox.
Because there are areas in Quantic where there was no coral, and there are other areas where the coral was very dense. But the last relay we did in it was probably almost 20 years ago, and that was when the brown tide was prevalent, and it seemed like the brown tide and the worm coral that was in there had some kind of synergy. So maybe getting rid of the brown tide, the worm coral has kind of, passed by to like the brown tide has. So I'm trying to, get a good assessment of the area before we, do a much
And the
larger
cross
plan.
genetics of this is going to be excellent.
Yeah, well,
If you take the Cornell oysters, because I don't ever, this is like when I leave the board, ever want to introduce any oysters to mecox because you'd never want to accidentally introduce Dermo or MSX into mecox.
Yeah.
But to take the genetics from mecox and cross it with stuff from Cornell
yeah.
is awesome, because those oysters have been hanging out and living very successfully for a very long time.
I mean, 1985 is when we had the big die-off of oysters in there. That was when we had 17 inches of rain, and basically the pond went to zero, and 99% of the oysters died. The oysters that we had gotten actually came from Oyster Pond in Montauk, and some of the oysters came from Mattatuck Inlet. So they were mixed in, but they've been flourishing ever since, and we've managed to manage it so that we didn't zero the pond out again. When that happens, basically everything just dies.
New start from scratch again,
Yeah.
which could roll us into our next topic.
At least you got all that pelch left behind though, right?
Yeah.
But we gotta just sit on top of it.
Yeah, I mean, the oysters, the shells there's places the oysters are literally 2 feet thick in Quantic Bay, I mean, in Mecox Bay.
Mecox right now.
So
Yeah, and we didn't even
there's
like
a lot.
like that small relay we did. Like I was just starting to see clean shelled oysters, just towards the end of dredging.
Yeah.
And you and I were spinning right next to each other,
Yeah.
so God knows how many more there was down below that. If we were just getting to clean
They're
oysters,
layers, they're
yeah.
literally
So I
layers
mean,
of oysters there. And that's only one like 1/50th of the pond
yeah,
that
it was as big as this room.
holds the,
Yeah.
You
you know,
throw on dive gear and go look at it?
I have at it.
yeah, as long as the water's
Because you
clear.
want to do it before it gets any warmer, because they're going to get murky. So
Yeah, it gets very murky in there. But I think it was a success. I mean, for the small scale operation, it was a success, and it gave us an idea what we can do in the
I
future.
think it's good because it shows that the board actually can engage in these ourselves. It's good to
Yeah.
be collaborating with the other organizations, but the fact that we have the ability ourselves to handle this.
Well,
I think
I
it's a
think
big
Chip and
bonus.
I are gonna write up a proposal to do a much larger relay next, spring.
this time next year, right after the
Yes,
closing.
yeah.
Let's get
And-
let's like
and-
plan for it. you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, no, let's get it on.
And any shoreline surveys or anything that needs to be done for the DEC for a larger, permit.
Preemptive strike.
we could sh-
And
we
I
should
reached
be able-
out to Cornell because we were also concerned about salinity levels for relaying mecox oysters has been problematic in the past. So I have reached out to the Peconic Bay keeper and the people at Cornell, and they're going to give us some salinity tests for both Tiana, the north end of Tiana where we spoke, and
Okay.
Quantuck.
All right,
So they're gonna give us a something to work with, so that we can be like, all right, we're close. It's 14 to 20.
yeah,
It's not 25.
it's not gonna stress the animals. All
All
right,
right, let's make a plan.
sounds good.
Make a plan. All right, so we don't have any waterfowl hunting location determinations, right? We got none of that here today. But we can start on our permit applications. I have Joe Spano, 21A West End. I see Glenn just here from JMO. Want to come in and sign in?
Morning.
Morning, Glenn. All you're proposing a 4x5 steps leading to a 4x52x3 catwalk, 4 feet high of through flow. No treated lumber.
What are we talking about here, just the dock?
Well, he's got this catwalk.
The catwalk with steps on the landward end and the seaward end, it's because, it's for, basically just for a kayak launching. It's, Dave's Creek is pretty narrow there. The dock would only go about 6 feet into the creek itself. It's heavily vegetated with phragmites from the lawn right out to the edge of the creek.
So you didn't
So you
officially,
wanna blow this right through the Phragmites, or this is going,
It's
is that how thick the Phragmites are, the whole length of that catwalk?
correct.
so you don't have official soundings, right?
Yeah, there's soundings in there. This would end at like 2.2 to 2.6.
You have that? You have?
Yeah, it's in the cross section. If you lower it down a little bit, you can see it.
Top of left-hand
Yeah, it's
corner.
on there. Yeah, 2.8 in the middle of the creek, it looks like, and then 2.7 along the edge.
Yep. It's just right off the edge of the bog.
Is there a path there already?
Yeah.
So
Like
they kind of just drag their kayaks through
It's
the
almost
bulrushes
like a
right
deer,
now?
it's a mucky, like a knocked
Yeah.
down with deer, deer path. I wouldn't call it an established path by any means.
I don't think it's too much, I mean,
It's a mucky mess.
yeah, I don't, it's better they're walking over the top of the muck than in through the muck. I mean, environmentally, standing.
He's not going, he's just basically getting steps, so he's not, you know. Put the picture back up, James.
Sorry, did you want to see that?
Yeah, take a look.
You have the catwalk.
About right. where you
How
want it.
far off that property line are you?
Yeah, I'd want to
What?
walk too.
How far off the adjoining property line are you?
Oh, 30 feet.
30 feet, yeah, you're way over.
Yep.
You're almost to the
Dead
center,
center.
but a little bit off, but because of the fact of the contour of the property, I think you're as far as you really can go with this.
If you go any further up in the creek, it's gonna be zero water.
What's that?
Exactly, you can't get.
If you go further north, it's gonna be zero water.
Yeah, and you're not on the hugging the property line so that the neighbors are looking at your
Yeah,
stuff.
It
like-
gets really pinched as you go up to the north
Yeah.
side there.
I mean, you look at the one where it's the guy's walkway is going right through the neighboring property, so, I mean, look, that one.
Oh, wow.
You know?
Yeah, it's not good, yeah, some of
I
these
mean,
things are not even
They're not
permitted.
even permitted.
They're
but,
not, they
you
just
know,
do them and then it. we
Also
don't
look
know
like
what-
Yeah, they might have been
made
there for
almost
eons,
dominant,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, it's collapsing out at the end there.
What are you thinking?
No, I was just curious because I see it's, you have it 4 feet above grade. I thought the Army Corps was making them go 54 inches
Even over Phragmites, or is that just Spartina?
over everything.
I haven't run into one of those yet, quite frankly.
Well, we have.
I think 4 is reasonable.
I think 4 is more than reasonable.
Yeah.
With light penetrating decking over Phragmites, I mean, if we didn't have to fight with the Army Corps, I would drop it down even a little bit more, and the light penetrating decking.
You
in the
get the
grip-
DEC too, they want it, they don't want it any lower, for wildlife issues.
Yeah, they can.
So deer
yeah.
can go underneath it or something? Yeah.
What kind of wildlife you have there? Squirrels, rabbits,
A
a
couple deer.
right? You know?
couple deer go over, all the animals go under.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's a mucky mess.
yeah, I
so.
mean, well, this is what we've been improving.
It's not like a sandy
last
beach.
3 or
No,
4
I think
years,
it's
so.
applicable. I think
Yeah,
it's a good, I think it's a good idea.
It's not a sandy beach, so
Yeah.
if it was a sandy beach, I'd tell you just take your kayak down the beach, you know what I mean? But that's not what you have.
And I see kayak racks, so they're actively using it. This
Right.
is not just like an excuse to put in the dock. They're like,
No,
they're
they have a
they're
rack right in the
people that
backyard.
enjoy using their access to the water and they're entitled to it, so I'm all right with it.
All right,
Okay.
Joseph?
I'm good with it, yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Good, James, you just gonna need some plans? Stamp plans. Yeah, so we're gonna need stamp plans from you.
Just put a stamp on it.
The engineering plans?
Maybe it just didn't come up on the
Yeah, if you
screen.
look on the bottom
The-
left,
the-
to your left,
the-
there you go.
Well, that's the surveyor.
Just check the plans on there and look for him. I think we do, but the scan may not even. Great.
Scott, can we just
What do you want?
mark one second, look at the schematic again? Plans.
Want to make sure that the dock's not going out more than a third the weight of the creek.
Top folder there.
It's going right to the toe of the meadow.
Yeah, it's not anywhere near.
Oh, it's 22 feet wide, okay. So that's fine.
Yeah.
Just, I see the surveyor. Stamp it.
You don't accept a surveyor stamp?
Well, on the structure, right?
Survey, the stamp is for the survey, not for the
He
structure.
pre- structure.
He prepared the plans.
But to prove, we need a stamp for the structure, right?
The surveyor,
Need engineered plans, right? Is that what you're looking for?
That's what you're.
I know, we don't have that. You need engineered, you just have the surveyor's stamp. You need a
I thought
stamp
that-
from their,
I thought that sufficed.
no, you need a
you need engineered plans.
engineered
You
plan.
need a stamp for the engineer. You
Okay.
don't have that here, so you still need stamp plans. So you just have the surveyor's stamp.
All right, we can get that.
That's what you need. You
We'll
can't do
get it.
anything without that.
All right.
All right? When you get that, then we will, we'll put it on. Let James know.
I'd be well.
Okay?
Thank you,
Thank
Glenn.
you.
Thank you.
I didn't think so. I didn't see that. All right.
What'd you say the best thing is for oysters, 15 to 20?
Lucas Torres, 53 Grant Boulevard,
Oysters set ideally at 10,
Hampton
they
Bays.
grow ideally at 20. But the salinity of Mecox is average probably 14 right now, but the salinity up west is 24.
Right.
So I'm trying to find areas that are closer,
Right.
like within 5.
They want to replace a dilapidated wood dock, float, and catwalk.
I'm gonna start bringing my.
Fixed
track
4
down
by
there,
15.
float, and just start like poking around.
Catwalk, 4 by 15 hinge ramp, and 2 6 by 10 floats with 2 40 by 14 finger posts to be secured by 2 existing pilings
This is the spot.
as easy dock. I think this is a old, prior permitted,
Yes.
so they're basically replacing something that, yeah, there it is, right there.
Was it from 81, I think?
Yeah, it's, what year is that?
81.
Yeah, basically, they are redoing,
They are making the finger floats wider.
so it's not exactly, but they do have a prior permit that they're working off of for this, because this is something that we generally wouldn't get involved in now.
Yeah, that was my area back in the day, so I'm
This
familiar.
is your area, you familiar
Yeah.
with this one? Well,
Yeah, yes.
there it is, they're making that, which today we wouldn't go for, but because they have this,
Wait, so we're going off an application from 81?
no, they did the project. This is a new application to redo it,
To repair, or, yeah.
resurrect, repair it. It's all dilapidated now, and they
Yeah.
wanna do it, over, and they're coming in for permits to do over what they had done back then. Because if it wasn't done back then, we wouldn't even be entertaining this.
It's dilapidated.
Well, the next door neighbor has almost the identical same configuration. It looks like
It's
float.
obviously gonna be like flow-through decking and all that.
Oh, well, the dock's not gonna be, the floating docks are not
No, I
gonna be
meant the
an easy
ramp
dock.
or the, like the
The catwalk.
standing, the catwalk.
It's,
The floats are gonna be those plastic easy docks.
yeah, floats are gonna be easy dock.
The ramp is gonna either be aluminum or.
We do not have stamp, I don't see stamp plans here.
Well,
And,
it is not a man-made harbor, but there is no submerged aquatic vegetation in the area, just to let you know.
so you think we don't need the, you don't think they need to flow through?
Well, they should have the flow-through on the upland portion of the catwalk,
Right.
because it's all,
And then to
It's-
recommend like
it's
an
not-
aluminum ramp.
It's
for-
not spec'd as flow-through, just by looking at this. I mean, there's no stamped plans here, so I don't see that. I think what's gonna have to happen is, relative to that conversation, is it's gotta go on hold,
the
and I don't.
consultant should come in and we
Yeah.
can have it back and forth
The
with them.
consultant's gotta come in, so I would say,
Yeah.
put this on hold and get a hold of Mr. Wolfensdorf and have him come in
Yeah.
and speak to this
So
application,
we can have it,
so we can talk about it.
yes, work through the whole thing. Because
It's not
we're
here.
having conversation amongst ourselves, and that's not gonna
That's
move
okay.
it forward.
It's okay. So let's hold it and ask him to come in, and we will continue the conversation. That way he can answer these questions of the board. Now we have 19 Dune Road, DKR Shores. And here is Agina. Hello, Agina.
Morning, Gina.
Thank you for putting this back on. It was pending since September. And I wasn't able to make that meeting, so I apologize. So this had a previous permit for bulkhead reconstruction and walkways to be reconstructed in place. I was applying to not just extend the permit that now expired, but to make a couple of modifications. Besides the bulkhead being reconstructed, Village of Quogue has a criteria in their village code. I'm only allowed to put a 4-foot wide walkway, not the whole deck, not the whole shebang. So I have to reduce it to only 4 feet wide. Of course, untreated lumber. And then also, he had an old dilapidated boat lift with like a cantilever deck. We don't allow that kind of thing anymore. So we're going to remove it and just do a very simple ramp to a float seasonally to be removed and stored upland. So much more compliant, much more environmentally friendly, and less invasive.
So you're asking for less than more.
Yes.
Wow, that's a
Yeah.
change, right?
Yeah.
I think it's,
It's pretty simple. I do owe you, because the cover is so old, I have to redo the cover sheet.
You
because
definitely
it's
do.
not the
I'm
new
looking at.
application.
Yeah, because
Yeah,
I'm reading this now and I'm listening to you.
yeah.
yeah, so I have to
If
redo the
you
cover
just
to
tune
the
up
new
the-
application.
Yeah, tune up the cover, right?
And then I do owe you stamped plans as well.
And the ramp is gonna be aluminum?
Just
or-
aluminum,
Yeah,
like the
yeah,
basic, with the handrail that's pop in,
Perfect.
pop out.
Yeah,
And then, a simple floated in, build it offsite, floated in, dock.
wood over poly float? or-
Yeah, yeah,
Same height, no elevation increase.
yeah.
And what
Very
are you
simple.
doing beyond? You're doing,
4 feet wide.
and then you're doing native
Get rid of-
vegetation beyond that?
Yes, yeah.
Are you gonna depict that on the plan?
I think it was from the last permit,
It's on their plan.
but,
It's on,
Then you're
I'll
you're
make sure.
redrafting everything anyway, just kind of.
oh yeah,
I
it's
have to
on,
send
well, I
it to
got
my
two. This
architect
one,
anyway,
And yeah,
so.
I mean,
this one doesn't have it. This one does.
Just plop the little.
Well, there's a before and there's an after.
The first page is a before.
Yeah,
what
I
you
have to
used
do
do.
that,
I
so
see
you can
that,
see
yeah.
what's there
This
to
is
be
the after here.
removed.
Okay, so you do have,
Is that the one we're looking at, the one you're doing right now?
It should be sheet 2. So page
yeah,
sheet.
this is 2 of 4.
It
Yeah.
has up there, it says buffer with something.
vegetation.
Yeah, this is
Native
2 of 4,
vegetation.
native
Yeah.
vegetation. You know what you're gonna put there now?
Probably the basic beach grass. Hopefully it will survive. It's gonna get flooded a little bit in
If-
there, though.
We're just asking that we actually have species instead of just
Yeah.
native vegetation.
I would prefer Spartina, because I know it's gonna get flooded. It's kind of
Yeah,
hard to
might be more
find
tolerant.
sometimes, but
Oh.
I'll specify Spartina, because I think that's gonna survive better, honestly, because that's
The
what
plugs
they're,
are
that's
getting
what's there
hard
right now.
from Jersey now, you can't source the plugs anymore? or-
Yeah, sometimes you can. I gotta check with the contractor who he's
Yeah.
using, or some
Would
people
be
use a
great
private
sidekick
landscaper.
For somebody around here.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's a-
yeah, so I probably would say Spartina, short form. It'll survive better there. beach grass, I think, will die.
We need amended cover sheet.
Yes,
stamp
sir.
Plans, you good?
You got it.
Yep.
Have a great weekend.
Thank you.
All right.
Good holiday, everybody.
Oh, yeah, it's this weekend.
What is?
All right, so that
really
concludes
this
mine,
It is.
right?
The starting bell.
Trustee Warner.
Okay. We
We got our
have,
meter here.
all right, which one we're gonna do first?
Wiener?
I got 8 Russell here. It's on
8
top.
Russell.
Pink ginger,
Easy.
We got Billy Mack. Coastal, Mr. First Coastal.
Hello, everybody.
And you, good morning.
Billy Mack, First Coastal.
all right, we were going back and forth as far as the maintenance agreement for the,
Yes.
which we have
Resolved.
have drafted. Do you have a copy of this yet, or no?
I don't think I do.
All right. So you're gonna need a copy to bring it to your client and discuss it.
Okay.
I know there was already a rock revetment here. Some of it was placed on the right-of-way.
Yes.
So we got a new survey, and we're gonna have the rock revetment specifically placed on the property that's applying for it, not the next-door neighbors and the
Exactly.
right-of-way, which, of course,
Was an issue.
was an issue. And you're asking basically to reconstruct or reconfigure the rocks that are there, basically making them all level, because some of the ones on the north side
Settled
were
down.
settled next to a bulkhead, so you want basically the whole structure to be the same height as
Exactly.
the northern bulkhead, correct?
Exactly.
And you're gonna bring some clean sand in and plant it with beach grass once it's finished?
Yep.
All right, so, we've been working on this for quite a while.
Yeah.
So, you guys have any questions, or, okay.
Yeah, so we'll get the agreement.
All right, so
signed.
I have a copy of the agreement here, the draft, that I believe, Joe, you did this one? So, I would say give it to you, but I think it's in the packet, so I think you have to
We'll get it digitally. Yeah.
get it from Joe and then look at,
Yeah.
sent to you.
Was it? Okay.
yeah, I
Well,
thought,
maybe it could be in review with the client, but I know that part has not been resolved yet.
yeah,
So, once that's signed,
yeah.
then,
Yep.
yeah, then you'll
Yep.
have everything for the application.
It's not, just to make it clear, it's not the Shinnecock Beach Road or the Peconic Beach Road, but it's a right-of-way, not a right, a beach that is heavily used by the people in the community, so we
Yeah.
want to make sure that there's,
Which one are we talking about? Are we talking about-
8 Russell?
Oh, so you skipped over the.
Yeah, I started,
He's
I picked the one that was on top of the pile, Jay.
he started the alphabet at Z.
Yeah, yep. Which we've,
Yeah.
sorry,
Which is
yep,
similar to the other applications.
yep,
And I think with 16 and 20 Sandringham,
yes.
same situation. We're trying to just get the agreement
Which
sorted
is, I
out.
believe,
Those we do have, the
you
copies.
should have them, yes.
Yeah,
Oh, right.
They're in the packet here,
I'll
so,
make sure.
So that's what I was talking about.
Yeah, okay, good.
sorry about that, yeah.
Yeah, the 8 Russell I don't have, but yeah, if you could send that over, James, and we'll get that reviewed with the client.
Yeah. And
Signed to you
those are
guys.
similar to the other agreements all along that stretch of beach, so, and
Yeah.
that is a Shinnecock Beach Road, so that's a
Right.
50-foot trustee easement along Shinnecock Hills.
Okay.
You
So,
have the stamp plans for 8 Russell? Sorry, go back to.
We should. Well, maybe we're waiting for a final, and then we're gonna get them stamped.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
once we get advanced, we get stamped, so
You
yes.
want to make sure the whole structure is on,
On the
yes.
properties.
I'm not going to meet with the
Yeah.
residents down there getting,
No. Yeah,
yep,
that
so
was
we're
not,
cleaning up little past mistakes.
Yeah, good.
Bookkeeping. Housekeeping.
Okay, so
All right.
I guess we'll get you stamp plans on both and signed agreements on.
Okay,
Yeah,
excellent.
we need stamp plans for all
Don't you have
three.
Joe and Matt?
What's that?
Don't you have two more here?
I do, but how do you guys want?
Well, if you wanna,
Oh,
while you're
yeah,
just,
they're different
while
parts
you're
of the
here,
bag,
while you're
so-
here, let's do all of
The
them.
two of them are with the Shinnecock Beach Road. One is just a regular rock revetment, which we permitted, but we
Joe
want to
has
make
one
sure
of
that
those.
it's done on.
I know,
the
so,
property.
so Matt, Joe, you wanna do yours? With Mr. Billy Mack?
42.
142 Taft Point
Okay.
Road.
Sure, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah,
Try to find it, hold on.
take your time. This is a dock application. Uh, I'd say it's relatively straightforward, 142 pound points.
Wait, and a catwalk as well?
Yeah, it's an
Ramp,
elevated catwalk
float.
to floating, well, to a ramp and then a floating dock, 6 by 20. We just make the 2.5 feet.
Open grade material?
Open grade material, non-treated wood. And we are 11 feet off the property line.
Why? Why aren't you centered?
Um,
I think we need to change that regulation. It doesn't even meet the Army Corps. Army Corps wants 15, right?
I mean, why is he hitching it all? Is it for his view shed that he has it right all next to the property and then has the float
I
in
think
that
it-
orientation?
it's
instead of
that
like
little-
a T-float?
On this particular side, it looks like it's that little bump in of the deeper water closer on the south side of the property.
But still, it still doesn't meet,
Yeah, but it's gonna be in good water at 2.6, what do you got, 2.5, 2.6 right there?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you can see the little
I think we gotta change regulations because we're making problems with this 15 and 10. It's really making problems for us.
Well, as.
Put it dead center and put a T on it.
Yeah, I
so-
mean, as Chip pointed out, there's plenty of room, so if
Yeah.
you guys want us to revise it
Put
to
it
that.
dead center.
Is there a
and
natural,
yeah.
is there a path that they use there already? That's my question, because if there is.
Yeah, it's dead center, you can see
Yeah,
where
that's-
it
yeah,
rips
that's-
on anyway. Why
yeah.
are they're hitching
Okay.
over because they don't wanna look at their own dock, so I mean, you
Well-
kinda have to, you can't take the good with the
But
bad.
why are you going across the wetlands
Yeah.
if you don't need to?
Yeah, well, the wetlands look like they favor that south side.
Yeah, so,
no one wants to look at their own docks?
well, I don't know why they
No,
wanna
it's
dock
right
in
in
the
the middle.
first
Yeah,
place,
that'll
cause
work.
they're a pain in the neck.
Okay.
That's true. In some
Yeah,
instances,
you
it's
would
less is
Definitely
more.
want to, you would definitely want to access through the disturbed area already.
I ripped mine out just so I wouldn't
Go-
have to
go.
deal with it.
Less is more sometimes.
Yeah,
Good.
dead center with a
See,
T dock.
that's
If
the
they want
area
a
in
dock, they
question.
can look at it. If they don't want a dock, they don't, you know, like.
Does that make sense to you, Jeff?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine, yeah.
Yeah.
You may come down and see it, or,
Happy to take a look at it if you want to.
And just because of that, there's no wetlands that you're even worried about
Yeah,
because
you can
it's
see that little
already
beach
eroded
reaches
out.
right in.
Yeah.
Okay,
I think
makes sense to
that we
me.
need to tweak that. That way we make it clear because it's just problem after problem.
That's.
We just have to be the same every time somebody comes in and wants to not look at their own dock. So you're
Yeah.
like,
Right.
well,
I usually try to cite
It's
it
a
in the
blue
middle
book
of the
regulation
property.
change because it doesn't even,
Water depth with.
it's not even consistent with other regulatory authorities,
Right,
which is problematic. So we'll, why don't we,
make it all,
make it 15
Consistent.
if the
yeah, and
Army
then
Corps
state
says
what the
15,
concerns
yeah.
are because the headaches that come afterwards are just not, they're not worth it.
Matt's got one.
Yeah, Matt.
11 Woodcock?
yes.
We're gonna hold that on there.
Yeah, we're gonna get revised plans, right?
Yes.
We're gonna hold this one,
Yeah,
yeah.
we'll hold that one.
It's stamp plans with
Yep.
the division.
Yeah, thank you. 11 Woodcock, this is, I do not have that file with me, but it is kind of conjoining.
Does that
Henry-
really say
Henry
point
Creek,
two?
yeah.
That's
Pardon me?
Does that really say point two?
the depths.
Point two, yes. Shallow. Very shallow.
And it
Yeah,
doesn't
that's
even
like a
get-
mud
there is
flat,
no-
right?
Yeah, it's really just
Yeah.
access for kayaks. That's
It's
it.
going to how much?
0.2 feet.
Yeah,
0.2 feet.
0.2 feet.
And they can't, it's not like there's deep water anywhere there.
Yeah, this is the end of the creek here.
Yeah.
Is there some other thing we can do here? Is there pictures?
I'm working on it. I want to get through them.
Oh, I got some pictures I can share.
Point two.
There's no water there.
It's basically a pond.
It's like a pond.
It's a bridge to muck.
It's a pond,
It's a
right?
puddle.
It's a
Yeah,
pond.
I mean, it's a creek, it's the head of the creek, yeah. I mean, it is navigable if you get further.
Well, I mean,
south, but-
judging by the pictures here, they certainly don't have to go out. There's no difference between the edge, which is 0.1, and 0.2 if you're gonna launch paddleboard, I think is probably the only navigable. Maybe a
Nothing.
kayak here,
You gotta have to
Kayak.
walk out.
so I think
Go
it
to
doesn't have to
0.1.
go that really far.
All right.
I would pull it back.
agree.
Pull it back.
I agree as well.
It's,
I don't
So-
know anything, do you meet the extended property line?
If we pull it back to point
If you
one,
pull it back, you will.
yeah, this is not permittable anyway.
yeah,
If you pull it back, then it'll be within, or
You gotta
close.
pull it way back.
we will pull it back
This is a
to,
case where less is more.
basically right where James's
Yeah.
cursor is.
Dock to nowhere.
Yep. Okay. It's just an access, right?
Like a bridge.
Okay.
We'll hold it, redo, come back.
Yeah.
When you're ready, we'll put it back on the agenda.
Cool. That should do it.
You're all good?
Thank
Good?
you very much, you
Thank
guys.
you, sir.
Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So that's your first coast. So the next one up is gonna be Suffolk Environmental, right? For you,
Yeah,
Chip.
Kathleen Muller.
Kathleen Muller, 30 Harry's Lane, Noyak, Suffolk Environmental. Going once?
He's here.
That was the
I see it.
Did you think I was leaving, Scott?
No, I see you there, buddy. Here you go. How are you, man?
Good. How's everybody doing?
Good, yourself?
I'm here. Okay, Chip, do you want me to do a background?
James and I went out to visit this piece of property. Ed and I have discussed it in very detail. There was a native seagrass bed in this property not long ago. Both Ed has steamered and shinered in front of it, and I've shinered in front of it, and it's gone. And the woman's property is basically just getting undermined, and the high tide bushes are falling into, we're to that point now. The immediate problem of this is there is no hardened structure on either side of this, of the neighboring properties have no hardened structure. One has a salt marsh, the other has kind of like a beach. So we're trying to figure out how we can stabilize this woman's property. She's got a fairly steep grade, and yeah, and we can't even figure out why
It's
all
like
of
an
a sudden it
anomaly,
disappeared.
that's
Yeah.
why it's happening.
Yeah, so she's kind of getting desperate. She doesn't have a ton of money. So we discussed pluses and minuses, and I was trying to tell him, you know, we've got a dredge project that's there that maybe we could utilize sand from. So we all kind of have to come together and figure out how we're going to address this problem without impacting the neighboring properties.
Yeah, that's.
So that's the biggest hitch that I see, and so he removed the application for a low sill bulkhead because I knew that was gonna be out. So yeah, this is where we're at.
Is it
Okay.
boat wake that's causing the erosion?
No, it's like a northeast fetch
Yeah.
that just all of a sudden started happening.
Yeah, I don't know if you have these, Matt. This is the aerial timeline.
I mean, it's pretty far
You get an
inside
idea.
of Mill Creek, and the channel in Mill Creek, as you can see it, is extremely narrow. I mean, the county did do a larger dredging to take out that thumb that's right there, take that whole structure out a few years ago, but,
Here's I mean, this is.
I mean, really, it's.
This is where the wetland was when Ed and I, the wetland basically was out to the end of this dock 10 years ago.
Yeah, there's a good,
Yeah.
survey
And
of
now
the
it's
property.
all the way up into the high tide bushes.
Right, well, the thing is, you know, in this area and many other areas, I think when there are alterations made further away, it changes the attenuation of that energy.
But I don't
It's
even
pretty
think that there
clear.
was that,
Yeah,
the dredge project has not altered anything. There hasn't been any changes in Mill Creek to cause this.
there's been no
And
dredging.
and the
in front of-
adjacent wetland is stabilized,
Yeah,
Yeah.
which is
Something to do
really,
with that area and energy that's coming from,
Yeah, we don't know. I
there
mean, I
has
had-
to be something.
I had Jeff Backey out there, who, you know Jeff, right?
yeah,
And John Reeve of Reeves Marine from Riverhead. Nobody can figure out exactly what's going on.
Yeah,
That's the
it's-
problem. It's her property, and it's a little bit to the neighbor to the southeast. So I did talk to Kathy Muller.
do you want me to addendum, like, explain to
James,
them why?
Can you zoom out a bit,
If you,
James?
yeah, if you'd like, yeah, whatever you want to do.
So if you look, James and I looked, and the wetland to the north is stable. Okay, see right there with that's still stable. And that's exactly what the wetland looked like in front of her property 10 years ago.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, the problem is and Shane, scroll down a little bit more. There was another wetland farther down. I don't know, it's not really showing up on that overhead. It goes to beach. So I don't know how we're gonna protect this woman's property without impacting the neighboring property. So I asked him to speak to the neighbor and kind of have more of a cohesive, you love that word,
Yeah, you gotta be
approach
cohesive.
to this problem for both the neighbor and, you know,
If we
both
permit-
people.
If we permit something on this property, it's gonna be a trickle-down effect.
It's just gonna keep rolling down until we
Yes.
get to the next wetland. It's
Eventually,
kinda-
you're gonna run
yeah.
into a bulkhead
Right.
there.
Yeah.
So,
So I don't wanna keep like moving, but if
Just
we can,
move the
if we
problem.
can attach the two wetlands, and having the two neighbors come up with a plan, we might have something. Otherwise, I can't approve hardening anything if it's gonna impact the neighbor.
Okay, so I talked to Kathy over the weekend. She reached out to the neighbor to the south, who Kathy tells me hasn't been out to the property in 3 years. Kathy explained, you know, what is going on to her property. The neighbor was concerned whether or not it was, you know, currently impacting her property as well. But right now, the neighbor doesn't seem to have any interest in this project next door or any interest right now in protecting her shoreline. So that puts us in a situation now, because as we're gonna try to condition this approval based on the neighbor also doing the same thing. We don't have any control over the
We have
neighbor.
no control. We have no control.
We're kind of stuck here.
It would be good when you're dealing with a regional type of an issue to have buy-in from everybody
Yeah.
to get the best result.
And-
If you don't, you can't, you know.
Yeah, and I agree. I mean, look, you know, that'd be a great solution. It's
It's
just
not
that.
gonna work.
Yeah, and the thing is, if we don't do anything here at the Muller property, it is gonna impact the neighbor one way or the other.
Yes, it will.
So I'm kind of stuck here.
What about,
And
like-
every week I get a call from her, and she's very nice, you know, again, she's not you know, she doesn't come out from the city. She works for a living on Main Street in Sag Harbor. You know, she doesn't have the money to, you know, put in some different type of, shoreline stabilization system if it's not gonna work.
You know, Ed and I, it was about a couple months ago on a Sunday, we had a conversation with some folks that were doing sort of a floating island type of a structure that was also utilized for attenuation of wave energy.
Mhm.
I don't know if this isn't something that we should further explore, you know, if that actually, works.
as long as you don't get ice in there. If you get ice, then all bets are off.
Because I was almost thinking, what about having Cornell come and put some of those burlap bags with the seagrass in it,
Well,
just
yeah,
outside of it?
the biologs are a failure in marine environments.
Yeah,
They're
they-
only 30% effective, and that's only in the end of areas. So biologs are out.
They're temporary.
They don't
Temporary.
hold up. But, you know, there is very good success with the oyster bags and the res.
I was thinking that too.
You know, it works, and it holds the shoreline. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm just trying to give you some outs.
No,
Yeah.
I get what you're saying, but is this also gonna be conditioned upon the neighbor doing it? And if not, then really, it sounds like maybe you have a problem with the sill, the rock sill. You know what I mean? We're talking about oyster bags, we're talking about biologs, but, you know, again, going by your thinking, we'd have to have the neighbor do it too. Cause those potentially would have an impact on the neighbor.
Definitely gonna have a
So-
trickle-down effect with this.
But what about
Just-
with and unfortunately, I don't think that where he has the rock line on there isn't, it's not far enough out. You know, to like build back a living shoreline for want of a better word. But I don't know if we're even, you know, because then you get to, like you said, the Army Corps and the Navy Corps.
Yeah, they're gonna have a say. Our
back and
DEC
forth,
doesn't like
back
you
and forth.
reclaiming lands.
Exactly. They're gonna
Yeah.
wanna shorten it up.
Yeah, I mean, that's why we didn't go out to the original property boundary.
Absolutely.
You know,
It's-
we're trying to keep this tucked in. We're trying to, you know, again, we like the idea of the sill wall, it seems like it'll work. John Reeve, he's done them a bunch of times up on the North Shore in Suffolk and Nassau with good success. But again, it's, if we have to tie this into the neighbor, we have no control.
Then we can't like approve something that's gonna possibly impact the neighbor. That's,
I know, but that's the key word, possibly. We don't know.
Right, and
You
then,
know, and
yeah,
I
but I mean,
can't-
we can't take a risk on possibly.
I know, I understand that, but like I said on the phone before, if you guys are gonna do this, you gotta put this in the code. I mean, I can't just, talk to these people, give them some solutions, and then now, we're worried about someone getting impacted. And I get your concern, but
the state, all the other regulatory authorities have to have the same,
they so far haven't brought it up,
Right,
about
but-
any kind of impact.
Yeah.
they should be thinking about the same mentality, unless they don't think that there's gonna be. But then again, they're blanket giving people 18-inch increases on their bulkheading, which is displacing water in other directions, so.
Yeah.
And then they turn around and say, well, we're leaving it for the local home rule to
Yeah.
make that decision,
I mean-
determination,
Yeah, I mean, I get where you guys are at. I mean, there's a concern, for the neighbor to the south. And I don't want to say, hey, well, let's just get a letter of support from the neighbor. I mean, in your eyes, maybe you're
If
worried
she
about
hasn't
creating
been out in
precedent.
3 years, she doesn't really know what's going on, that's the whole thing. If she was there last weekend and
Yeah,
physically seen what was going on, then she could comprehend what we're trying to do.
but then the thing is, do they have the money to do that, and that's something
You
else
can't
I
force people
control.
to engage
Yeah.
in these activities if they're, we have that going on with, people with their bulkheads and whatnot, and they're choking
I
off
get
their
it.
neighbors, and
Yeah.
it's like this.
Can we buy her some time and work with Costello and pump some sand in front of this person's house?
I mean,
Could you draft a permit? I mean, it's gonna happen anyway. Costello's gonna pump that marina. It's right there. Can you buy this woman some time that's free?
I can talk to her, but again, that goes back to going back to all the other agencies and getting their approval.
Right,
for
'cause
this.
they may
And
not
again,
be-
they may say, whoa,
No,
whoa, whoa,
we're not
you're
doing that.
reclaiming land.
Yeah,
Filling
exactly.
in underwater land
They probably
is
won't
like-
approve it. It may not be approved as a DEC approved or whatever spoil
Yeah.
site for, Can you zoom back out on the GIS, to take a bigger look at that area?
Could you go back in time too, a little bit?
No, you don't wanna go back in time. It's so, it's a nominal. It's an Eddie and I
That's what I
are
wanna
racking
see.
our brains because I've caught shiners right there.
Oh, wow, yeah.
It was all meadow
was all
there
meadow.
10 years ago.
10 years ago, it was meadow.
No, she has ground photos of it. I mean, this is a family house. They've been there for decades.
I'm wondering, did you guys say that canal was recently dredged?
Yeah, but
Further
the-
out.
But if
I
you're-
know, but I'm
half
almost
a
wondering on a
mile
hard
away.
north wind if it allows
we thought
swell to
that-
come
we thought
straight
that-
down.
Well, that's what I
through
was
it.
talking about, the wave
We
attenuation.
we looked at
You
that.
eliminate,
But we looked at that already, Eddie and I, the overheads over it, and we put them time-lapsed next to this, and the hook that they dredged in it had nothing, there's no change.
Yeah.
Yeah, wow, look at that. Just that one spot.
Look at where her dock, I mean, the dock was at the edge, the end of the dock was
Yeah,
at
you
the
can see
end,
it
yeah.
there.
It's
I remember
just-
when we permitted that dock.
But they got that big yacht that goes in and out of there now. I'm wondering, because he makes that turn right there. He's
It's not
throwing a
gonna
wake
be-
off
it's
right
not
there.
gonna- It would make a wake through the whole entire
He just
But
area.
he's
showed that.
turning
is
right
it
in
a
that
no-wake
spot.
zone, or is
It's a
it?
no-wake zone.
All right, so if it's a no-wake zone, he should, if it was running and you make a turn and that wake is thrown in a
No.
direction, it's gonna put more
It's
energy in
gonna
a spot, but
dissipate.
not in a
There's a
no-wake
big
zone.
flat right in front of our
Yeah.
house. It's at low tide. It's only about a foot deep. So
It should trickle out. It should-
yeah, I don't understand what's going on there for the last
Can you
10
keep
years.
zooming out there? I just wanna. Keep going.
Just seems suspicious to me. It's like it's right on a 45-degree angle to where they make the turn, go around.
Yeah, but where the cursor is there's a giant flat
You can
at
see
low
it.
tide. It's
Yeah.
not even a foot deep. So it's gonna absorb all that
So
wake.
what was removed? That thumb sticking out there?
Yeah,
No,
way,
the thumb was all the farther up,
way up.
way up, yeah.
That's still
that
there?
thumb.
That's what I'm saying. That was taken out.
Yeah, but it's back again.
Oh, it's back again.
This is 2024, so this is recent.
That's back. So
I think in March or something like
go
that.
to 2020 or 22.
When they did the dredging, it was taken out. Say, even a little bit longer. Yeah, right there. What
What year is that?
thumb,
This is 2021.
That's when they did the dredging.
Okay. So if you had, that's sheltering something. You're out of the lee, and then you go to 2024, and now you're back in the lee. So whatever's I think behind that, depending upon look, I'm no expert in that, but I'm just, I'm looking at the difference, and I would say who's ever like on the least side of that is getting some protection when you eliminate that. Now
I mean,
you're-
that's a nasty northeast wind spot, I'm not gonna lie, like, that's a nasty bit of water, there's a lot of fetch,
Yeah.
and
I
that
think
gets
it's,
stumpy.
I think that
coming
little
across.
nub could cut down on some of that fetch just enough.
But it's
It's
built
fetched all
up.
the way
in
over to
Well,
Port
then
Egypt
she
on the
should
north
be
side.
lessening, it should be,
The last 2
if
years,
that
it should be
theory
lessened.
works, it should be lessening when that nub is there and increasing when that nub is gone. How do you see that?
No, it's more.
You don't see that.
The last year it got really.
Yeah, but
got
they don't
worse.
have anything holding it anymore.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, but the problem is that it used to be seagrasses
The
holding
wetlands.
it.
Well, yeah, well,
And
the
now
seagrass-
the seagrass was breaking the waves
Yeah.
that were going into the, and
Absolutely
now
right.
that's gone, so you have nothing that's breaking up that
That's probably it
fetch.
right there. You lose those seagrasses, and that's why we're all about that.
Yeah, no,
That's what
you can
ties
see
back.
from the aerials.
You know, the floating mat that has seagrass in it.
That's what we're talking about.
That's what we're talking.
To maybe wave attenuate.
I would
some
love
of
to
that.
see the oyster reef backs, because we know biolugs are out, they're useless. And the seagrass,
This is a
and
tough one.
Biologs are core lugs,
So
right?
you wanna go right to the,
yeah, but the problem
rocks.
is they just don't hold up.
I mean,
in
we're
the
just,
environment long enough to-
we'd like to, I mean, I've seen the oyster bags too as well, I just, again, I just don't wanna be thrown in a situation where I have to convince a neighbor who's either.
I don't think you should be in that
uninterested.
situation. I think
there
that it makes sense, you know, like as Trustee Warner would say, if you take a holistic approach
Yeah.
to these things, it really does make a lot of sense, but you can't, like you said, you can't force people to do things that they don't wanna do, and then the other side of it, you can't not let somebody protect their
Yeah.
property.
And
So-
I'll go back, you know, look, we're gonna continue this dialogue with the neighbor and just say, look, it's in your best interest, you know, to at least consider this. And maybe she'll come around, but we'll continue it with her, but. I mean, are you guys, I mean, I don't know where we're going with this right now, but at the end of the day, I mean, you guys could do a public hearing, you know, and just make sure everybody's,
Oh,
and the
absolutely.
neighbor's fine. We don't have any problem with that. If you want like
As
a
long as
letter.
we're not putting somebody else's property at risk for
Yeah.
what we've changed it for this person's property.
No, I get it. It's a no-brainer, but,
Yeah.
you know.
I think getting the public hearing process and having a couple experts come in and give their opinions on applications that they provided to other residents.
Yeah.
Maybe good testimony, so that would help the people in the public understand and also us understand. Because like this is like an anomaly.
I know,
That
this
is
is-
happening, you
yeah.
know.
I've never
Chip
seen
showed
anything
it to
like
me, and
this.
I remember when we permitted the dock there.
Yeah.
And there was wetlands there.
Yeah.
Now it's completely gone.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, the problem is that the loss, and that's why everybody's, it's important to maintain those wetlands.
Yeah.
So let's
It's
let's
important
also
wave
be real
attenuation.
too.
Well,
It's
that's what
like
we're
when
trying to
you
do is
when
build
you
it back up.
increase the depth
You know.
of the water and like, are the oceans raising? I don't know. But let's be real. Like our seasonal the tides are more drastic.
Mm-hmm.
So that flat that was once there that Eddie mentioned before, that was a foot,
Yeah.
was very protective for a lot of fetch.
Yeah.
But when you have unseasonably high tides with the northeast blowing on it, that flat's not helping.
Yeah.
So you're having the waves are able to be like ramp up before and then wail on that person's piece of property without seagrasses
Yeah.
protecting it.
Yeah, once the seagrass is gone and you have a bluff
You got
behind it,
nothing.
there's nothing there but soft
Yeah.
sand.
Okay, so
I'm all for it.
Where are you at with the other regulatory authorities?
we've received some feedback. I resubmitted the latest plan showing the rock sill, which is kind of what like the Army Corps was hinting towards, living shoreline as
Living
well as
shoreline.
the DEC.
That's similar to what we've done in West Hampton, but the picture shows the rocks flatter and then the plans show it like this. So I think the flatter would be better. I know it takes up more of a footprint on the ground, but I think it gives you more surface
Yeah.
for, you know, wave attenuation and, you know, that's.
Right, I think that's important, because I think that lessens your risk for doing
Yeah.
damage to the adjoining
Right.
properties, because if you're just putting
Yeah.
you know, a barrier there, that wave
No.
energy's going somewhere, and if it's going to
Yeah.
the adjoiners, that's where you get the problem, and
No,
that's
we
where
want
the
to
design is
gradual.
critical.
Yeah, yeah.
I think this should definitely be on a hold situation pending what these other folks are gonna say, because it looks to me like that's the direction that it's gonna go.
Yeah.
But I think that a lot of it depends upon the actual engineering of what you're talking
But
about.
as soon as you get some green lights, let me know so I can get it back on.
Yeah.
And that way we can
Okay.
kind of like, because I know that this is a timely issue. I mean, it's not going to get better. And
Yeah.
I've seen that thing is like her whole It's like chewing, it's wiping out high tide bushes.
Yeah, no,
It's like,
Yeah.
Well,
I've never
it's-
seen anything like
It's-
that, yeah.
the problem is capitulating, because as you have more of the loss of the native vegetation,
Yeah.
it just exacerbates the
Yeah.
problem.
Yeah, that's what we're saying, that's what she's saying.
Yeah, if you're
Yeah.
looking for a good example of a living shoreline and an oyster project, I think the Shinnecock Reservation
Yeah,
and Chris Pickrell and Cornell did a pretty good job over there. So maybe, you know, if we have a public
Okay.
hearing, I would contact them or have you contact them.
Yeah.
Come in and give us a little overview on that project, because that fetch in Shinnecock is much worse than here, but they have a rocky beach behind them. You have sand, so
yeah, okay.
there's no stopping.
Okay.
So let's
it.
put on hold.
All right, so let's, okay.
Let's
I'll
get-
get some feedback, and then I'll
Yeah.
report back to you.
Right.
yeah,
And we're gonna
and I'll
keep-
bring it to Ed, and
Okay.
like, I'll bring it to everybody, and we'll kind
Yeah,
of
if
have
you
like
guys wanna go out to
plan.
the site and meet
Yeah,
again,
I'd
it's up
welcome
to
you guys to stop by and see it if you haven't seen the piece
Yeah.
of property, because it is a problem.
All right, and
Yeah.
then I will go back to the neighbor with the owner, and we'll talk.
I think really
Well-
important is that we get in synchronicity with all the other regulatory authorities. I
Yeah.
think that's very important here,
All right, so we'll do that, okay. Okay. That's fine.
because, you know,
Thanks,
Yeah.
Matt.
All right, do you guys
Thank
wanna
you.
go to the next one?
Yeah, let's do it.
The Sag Harbor Community Rowing.
Yeah, this is an
Oh, this is
interesting
an
one.
important one. This one's close to my heart. I stopped by there and met with Lee.
Okay,
So I got the backstory on the neighbor, I've got the backstory on what they're proposing. So the long and the short of it is the rowing club in Sag Harbor, which is a really great program that brings youth and teaches them to scull, is proposing they're right now they're rowing fours, and you can launch off the marsh with fours, but they'd really like to start to row eights. And to launch an 8, you need a decent sized dock.
You need stability, because you
You
have
need
to carry the
stability,
boat out.
you have
and
to
get-
carry the boat out, and you have to roll the boat, so, and to get 8 people in a scull that's, about this wide is not exactly the easiest endeavor standing in the water. This program, personally, anything that gets kids off the couch and out into the marine environment, I am 100%
Yeah.
for. The problem, the one real problem with this dock is that you really can't use pillars.
yeah,
Or-
we
or
talked about that.
because-
You need a low profile dock that's very,
Yeah, but what I'm saying is it's 75 foot long
yeah.
by 8 foot wide. And you can't really put posts at the end because they get hung up on the oars going out. So the ones that are done in
Yeah.
lakes don't have poles. They don't
Yeah,
have
we're gonna
something
look at those.
holding it. So
Anchors.
what they do,
Yeah.
what they utilize, what they rely on is it being 8 foot wide, and the stanchions on the shore side end is what basically holds the whole dock. So I was thinking a helix anchors of some kind
Yeah,
to kind of like stabilize that offshore end, because it is facing to the northwest,
Yeah.
east.
yeah,
But also the approval of a dock that is 8 foot by 75 foot on public property. Like, do we want to open that up to discussion? And also that this is never to be used for motorcraft. Because I was specific about this. I'm like, anybody in the community that can utilize this dock besides just the rowing club to launch their paddle boards or their kayaks and stuff. But I also told them, I'm like, you guys have a chase boat. I was like, you can't tie your chase boat up to this structure. You know, like, because then
Yeah.
that just becomes a conflict.
yeah, I think he uses Jerry's next door.
He uses Jerry's for the time being
Yeah.
next door. Jerry was worried about how you had the
I think we're gonna-
orientation.
Yeah, I think we're
I
gonna
said
kick
make it
over a little
straight.
bit, yeah,
Put it
Yeah.
right down the middle and make
Yeah.
it straight. But we have to approve an 8 foot by 75 foot floater.
Is
You
it a
know?
commercial venture, then you'd be able to, the commercial docks are different than residential.
Then he is also opening, the other reason is he's just getting approval to, for this program to be for autistic children. So, it's, you know, he's trying to make an effort to have a program that is more user-friendly for people with disabilities.
And don't forget, it's also I mean, most of the structure is gonna be seasonal. It's not gonna be in there all year round.
We did work with the town when they had at the Flanders Men's Club, or the property bought by CPF. The town did put a dock in very similar to this.
Did he send those really
I don't-
great pictures
I
with
don't know
you?
if we
Uh,
committed it,
I
or,
think we
Yeah,
gotta,
he gave them
I
to
don't know,
me.
we gotta
and
do
he
a
said
lot of
you guys
research
were
on
gonna
this
bring
here.
'em.
Hey.
No.
We gotta take a hard look at all
Yeah,
this
no,
stuff.
I didn't unfortunately.
He gave me-
What were they, like photos of the?
Photos of,
water?
the- of, a- of a, of a dock that
Oh, he
was,
sent, like, months ago, he
Gotta
sent me
really
one
take a look at
photo.
this.
So he probably supplied you with much better.
I had photos, it
Yeah.
was basically a plastic plug-and-play dock
Yeah,
that he could remove, break it in 3 sections and put it upland.
Gotcha.
It's
Yeah.
only for the rowing season that he wanted this structure.
Right, well, let's take a look at this.
I mean, I know there's nothing in our blue book that would give us the ability to prove it.
mhm.
So-
Unless it's commercial,
Unless it's commercial, has a different criteria for
and
dock.
this is a 401c3.
I would imagine, yeah. I mean, is that
What's the zoning
defined
for
under
this place?
commercial? Would that be defined
This
under
is,
commercial?
this is town property,
It's town property.
Village
Yeah.
property.
village
Yeah,
property.
village,
Well, I think it might have been actually, it's an old paper road.
It's
Owned
a
by-
right-of-way to-
Owned by
Yeah.
the village?
It's a right of way to the water.
So then who, are they the applicant, if we're coming off of their property?
Who, the village or the rowing
Yes.
club? The village will most likely, well, it's up to you guys, really, at the end of the day.
You know, it should be coming off of the landowner, no?
Yeah.
So we would need to.
Well, this is Cove Road here.
And I think we'll get that, because I know they met with the mayor,
We would need
last
to,
week.
we would need to work with the
Can you-
actual,
Yeah, can you get some of the paperwork that, for the 401c, whatever it is?
Yeah, I'll get you all that.
And
Well,
So that we can
could
give it
you-
to our attorney to
Well,
look at
Yep.
as far as legalities.
hey,
Okay.
yeah, the village has got it, we gotta work with the village.
Joe, would you like to come up
Oh.
here?
But could you also have Lee send the
The
pictures
photos, yeah, I'll print them out. and get
to
them
me
you.
via email?
Yeah,
So I
okay.
have them digitally, so I can
Okay.
give them
We
to the
gotta-
rest
we
of the
gotta
board,
study this
because
a bit.
that aerial
Yeah,
view
I
of that
know.
8-foot
This needs
dock
to be looked
Yeah.
at.
Okay.
explains a lot. It
Okay.
answers a lot of
This is a
questions
gray
for
area.
rowing.
Yeah,
I think I have
okay.
an idea for you.
And I've been through this with the town already on
This
this one.
requires a lot of thought, so I think it's more listening and
You
learning.
may want to have the village make the application. Let them work
Oh,
out, let
okay.
them work out a licensing agreement with the rowing club.
Hmm.
We can certainly work with the municipality, and we have flexibility working with the municipality.
That's what I was looking for.
But a private individual or a corporation, we don't have that kind of flexibility. So that might be the answer to the problem. Let the village make the application, let them work out a licensing agreement for the use of the thing. We can put our restrictions in, the village would then have to enforce them.
Right, but we gotta be really tight with this stuff, because, like you said, you set a precedent, and
Yeah,
you
that's
gotta
what
tread
we're-
lightly here.
I think that's enough
Yeah,
on that
that's good.
subject.
That's it.
No, I'm glad, no, it's good feedback.
Thank
That
you.
was great, okay, great idea, okay.
Do you have any more with us?
Nope.
That's
All
why
right,
they pay
great.
small
All right, I appreciate it.
Thank you, Joe.
That's what I was saying, who's the property?
Well, I could go back to some minutes of the town when we were doing
Yeah,
it
but
with
when you got a municipality, it works.
with Skip Haney and.
That's why I was asking, like, who owns it?
Yeah, well, we knew we were gonna come up, to that point, but, it's good
Sag
feedback.
Harbor, no, that was Sag Harbor, that's Suffolk Environmental, and then there's 443 Sagaponic LLC.
That's Susanna.
And consultants.
Susanna. Patiently waiting.
Also, public hearing, I recommend when you get to that.
Absolutely,
On
without
that
a doubt.
particular, yes.
That
Because of the
needs,
length.
yeah,
No,
that,
that's why I want to get as much information.
that needs a lot of due diligence.
I keep meaning to go to try out the rowing there, because I rowed in college and high school.
Let's go, I've got
And
it.
I remember
yeah.
taking that 8 over your head. and
Walking down
then
the dock?
Walking like this, and then carefully putting it in the water and,
Not
He
rolling the
said I
dock
could
over.
stuff an Olden, I got an Olden 22 from my dad, he used to row religiously in meat box, just stuff it down there and leave it there,
I miss it.
have at it.
That's
all
that's-
yours.
But
Couple people that religiously row in there all winter long. I'm like, God bless them.
I did that, but it was North Carolina, which is very different
Yeah.
than here in the winter.
It's great exercise.
It is. I miss it so much, being on the water at dawn.
Before the wind picks up.
Yes, Exactly.
Yeah, but Ed has to hold something. I could, I guess he could do it, Ed, it's almost the same.
Yeah, it's the same motion.
You'd probably be good at it. So this is an application for Phragmites cutting. You saw the property next door probably, I don't know, 6 to 9 months ago, and approved the cutting of the Phragmites there. This property is a little bit different, because the upland is a forested wetland, and then the Phragmites start. And what's happening is the Phragmites are starting to go further and further landward and further out into the pond. So we're proposing to cut by hand twice a year. That's a dock that you approved about 10 years ago. That goes from the house out to a little platform. There's a lot of really great native vegetation in and under that Phragmites that is being choked out. There's swamp rose mallow. There's a lot of freshwater ferns. If we could stop the Phragmites, it would have a chance to flourish, which is what happened next door.
I would say I agree.
100% for it, and you know the whole, like, village part of it? Because this is village jurisdiction
This is
upland?
Village of Sagaponack. Last time I checked, they didn't care about Phragmites, but,
The upland, I don't know if you have to get approval or.
oh, for the
that's-
upland, we need a
That's,
conservation
yeah,
board.
that's,
From
yeah,
Marty.
that's more, that's the Environment Division.
But he's
Yeah.
worked with us on other projects that have been very successful.
Yeah, I don't think.
Basically, I think as we've done in the past, is I sign off as soon as the other, or, not I'm sorry, the trustees sign off as soon as the Environmental Conservation Board approves the project.
In
We
the
don't-
past, it's
We don't
been-
have to do that.
It's been
You don't have
separate.
to do that.
Separate applications.
If it's proposed to be landward of mean high water and seaward, you would normally, coincide with the conservation board permit. I don't know, did you apply to the conservation board?
We
first?
have, we don't have that approval yet.
Right.
But, and it's separate
So it's
applications?
separate, yeah, separate
Awesome.
applications.
Yeah,
So one
so
would
you
go
could-
to the high water, and then yours would go
Right.
from high water
I mean,
out
we-
into the
Yeah.
pond.
We
Usually
certainly,
you like to reference there so that you have the same regulations as they do essentially.
It's the same project, just,
Hand cutting and
Right.
not
Well,
cutting.
consistency in the
Not cutting
project, that's what we
Yeah.
need, yeah.
well, yeah, because you need both of them to really be successful with this. You need to
Right.
get it out of there. So we're good with this. It's just a matter of facilitating, all the necessary permits as you always have to do.
right. And we need a
Technically.
DEC permit as well.
Right.
Um,
Right, so
Okay,
Do you
so
have an idea of when you're gonna get the permit from both DEC and
I
conservation board?
don't, actually, I haven't filed with the DEC yet. I just want to make sure that this.
we're fine with it. We could, we could hold
Okay.
it until you get the other, and then you could let us know, and then we could put it on for, for a
And advance
resolution.
it once you have the other permits.
If you want to do that, because if you haven't even applied to the state yet, we're not holding you up, and nobody's
Okay.
against natives and getting rid of invasives.
Okay, I think it's a really good project because there's so much, it's really beautiful.
I
under
saw
there.
the
No, you're
swamp
right.
mallow you had in there and stuff, like, yeah,
Yeah.
that'd be great to,
Yeah.
yeah.
You're correct.
I guess my only other question, because it's just cutting, do we need to get them engineer stamped, the plans?
No.
Okay, good. I didn't think so. All right, good. Thank you.
That's it.
Thank you.
Patiently waited for that. Thank you.
Ted.
Thank you so much.
Well, it's interesting conversation.
It is.
Next for me would, back to me.
Yep.
Here at the Reuben Trust.
Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
You just state your name and,
Sign it.
Richard Rubens, East Beach Drive.
Now, this has been before us a few times, I believe, right?
I use that house as a landmark.
Before my time. And, is this the renewal, James?
No, this is an as-built,
Okay.
permit application. He replaced 3 tropical hardwood pilings without a permit. Due to
That's
storm
fine.
damage, so you guys are just legalizing the pilings.
Right, okay, that's, okay.
Did some repair work. And you used compliant material.
Replace.
Let's see do that.
Put someone in, it's a little dugout in.
Yeah, I think
in
it's
there.
okay. I think it's okay.
Yeah.
We're good. You good?
Yeah,
We're good with it?
we're good.
Okay.
I have some questions.
Oh, you do? You have questions? Go ahead.
Yes. About 40 years ago, we found this piece of property. The seller's attorney met us at the property, and he says, "You kids are young. I advise you not to buy it." We loved it anyway. We're facing north in Little Peconic Bay, and we suffer sometimes severe storm damage. And it's been a year since we did the work. We were, Abe Docks was doing work in the area, and he came by, he said, "Mr. Rubens, you're missing 3 pilings." I didn't even know it. So this was basically emergency work. I called end consultants. They said, "You don't need a permit." Abe Docks said, "You don't need a permit." And during the work, the DEC came. DEC, was it?
Or Bay
Whatever.
Bay
Constable,
Constable.
Marine Patrol, there's a.
Immediately. How do you get such a response
Well,
for
Probably a
emergency
neighbor.
work?
And we changed regulations because what happened was that people were engaging in things and deeming their own emergencies and doing work, and that became problematic for the board. And the waterfront has eyes. Everybody's watching you, I mean, people, it's amazing, the SOS, Southampton Online portal and complaints that roll into all of us from the public that's just watching. It's like the waterfront has eyes.
Cell phones have been the
It's
death of
amazing,
everything,
you know.
because you could take a picture and make a call all at the same time.
Well, there's something wrong someplace, because the other day, I left the frying pan on the stovetop, and it created smoke. I didn't even know about it, and we got an emergency alert on the alarm, evacuate, right? And I called up the alarm company. I said, "Cancel the call, because it's no problem." And they said, "Sorry, we can't cancel it." And my wife was so nervous, she hit the panic button, which was emergency, like home invasion, no response. It took over an hour for them to come and knock on the door.
Right.
So this was a faster response,
Right.
and it's
Than
unbelievable.
the other thing, yeah.
Well,
And-
when people take these projects on without permits, and the reason that a lot of times they get caught is they don't use compliant material because you're not allowed to use treated lumber. The dock builder that you had actually used compliant material.
Yeah, of
But
course.
But if you're using non-compliant material and your neighbor sees it and he just paid for tropical hardwood and you're using non-compliant, so he's
Oh, the neighbor had no
I'm just
idea.
saying-
No, but
what
we're
we
saying it's
speaking
a
in
blanket problem.
Generalized terms.
Yeah.
People were declaring their own emergencies, and then they were
Oh.
doing things that were not legal, not to regulation, and it was making problems all over the place. That's why we try and work with people as efficiently as possible when we can.
Yes.
Well, it took over a year to be here, so.
Well, it's all done now, so.
And can you waive the as-built fee, because
We don't have
Why?
that ability to do that, no.
who does?
Nobody. Nobody.
Nobody.
Nobody.
How is that possible?
It's just possible, because you just can't do
You
it.
can't start
do it.
something without getting a permit.
And also, according to the regulations, the trustees do not have jurisdiction in Little Peconic Bay. So,
Did we permit this dock prior?
But that's technically in the mouth of Woolly Pond.
Right, so,
So once you get out.
I'm sorry, what?
That's technically in the channel of Woolly Pond,
No, sir,
no?
no, absolutely not.
James,
I mean, that's a,
It was determined that you guys have.
it was determined we have jurisdiction in this area? I think we do, and special counsel shaking his head, yes, we do have.
Well,
I
how
think-
did you determine?
I think that,
Say what?
It's the mouth of Woolly Pond.
It's not the mouth of Woolly Pond.
you zoom out on that, please. Yeah,
I believe there were permits for the whole, all those
Well,
other
if-
structures that
If,
were.
if it's, honestly, there's a trustee's right of way at the end of that. So if it's adjacent to that, then it is in our jurisdiction.
What do you mean the right of way?
The right of way at the end of the road.
Right of way to go into the bay
Yeah,
for the
Yeah,
emergency fire
that's a trustee's
in
right
the
of way.
bay. But that has nothing to do with our property.
Yeah, I know, but it's a budding right. The poles are basically blown in next to that, where your property is, and you have a bulkhead that's approved adjacent to a trustee's right of way.
Right. Was the
But in
structure,
effect, we're protecting your right of way.
was the structure permitted prior by the trustees that we repaired? Was there a permit?
You had a permit, James?
You didn't look.
Couldn't look, but I think we did that research and I sent it to the board and.
You did.
And Joe.
What do you mean,
The
in
determination was-
82?
Whenever the prior
We
was.
bought the property with the bulkhead in place.
Right, so whatever it was.
Hurricane Bob took away the bulkhead.
Right, so if research was done and they determined that the trustees had jurisdiction, they're just gonna maintain concurrent jurisdiction over that structure, and therefore, that's why we're here today. And in terms of, waiving as-built and whatnot, we
But
can't.
you're also allowed to research it yourself and FOIL for information and find out, and if you don't believe that you owe the as-built, you're welcome to research it and,
As far as we know, sitting here today,
Yeah.
the trustees have
as far as
jurisdiction.
that, as far as that area, and I know it pretty well, like, that's a trustee right of way where that bulkhead is. So, but.
What part of it?
One part of it, that's correct.
No, what part? What do you mean you have the right of way where?
The end of that road.
The
The end of the
roadway.
road,
At the end of the road.
yeah,
That's your property.
then it butts to your property. You're welcome to research it and
Okay.
FOIL it and find it, and if you believe that you've been charged unduly, there's plenty of processes by which you can acquire your money back. But otherwise, as it stands, the research that we've done, there's an as-built fee that is applied for repairing the poles.
All right, so what is the bottom line? We have a permit now?
Yeah, we're gonna get a resolution, we're gonna make a resolution for you, and then you'll have a permit, and then you'll be all
Because I have
legalized.
a criminal summons.
No.
for-
Yeah, not as of us writing a resolution, you're free and clear.
Free to go?
Yeah.
You're
No
all-
jail time.
Out of jail free.
You're all
You're
good.
all good.
So how do we get the police to note our address? Because when the police came on the home invasion, he said he had trouble finding the house. So how do we get?
That would be a conversation with public safety. I would maybe give a call to
Thank you.
Ryan Murphy at Public Safety
Ryan
and see
Murphy
what
at
they can
Public
do
Safety,
about
yeah.
getting clarification, because to your point, we actually had to change the names of some of the older trustee roads to clear up some, kind of misunderstanding so that they could get to
Like
the
Werewolf
people's
Drive?
houses.
Like Werewolf Drive, where's Werewolf Drive?
Old Canoe Place Road and all of that stuff.
Yeah. So, yeah.
So you should have a conversation with them, because there may be some clarifications that can be made.
Thank you.
Real quick, do we need stamp plans for the pilings?
No. No, not for pilots.
No.
Not for just the pilots.
You all good?
We're good.
Just for
Okay.
clarification, is that Little Conic Bay or not? I was trying to figure out the.
It is Little Conic Bay, north of his property.
Yeah, but the other side of it is,
It's ours.
Willie Pond.
it's
It's
ours.
Woolly Pond
It's
outside.
Woolly
It's ours.
Yes.
I gave you the wrong file.
No, you're still going, Joe?
Yeah, I have one more.
All right. So now we have
One more.
reason to smile, which is a reason to smile, actually.
That'll last.
How are you? Good morning, good morning.
Good morning.
I think we're all set. I sent you guys a DEC permit. I said, client sent you stamp plans, and we're fully permitted other than the trustees.
This was before us, before.
Yeah, we've been back here a couple times on this one. The last meeting, some of the comments you gave were the removal of the deck and adding the 10-foot buffer line, which we did. And any other questions in here?
James would have all the plans. Is it all after the last meeting and the conversation that we had, is it all,
It appears so. The plans, what plans do you have?
Your latest plan should match the DEC's, which is the latest revision date is 1/18/24.
December 1st, 2023 is the stamp on this one, James.
That's not,
That's like 4 months ago? Do we have any more current than that?
What's the date stamp?
December 1st, 2023.
River replace bulkhead. You're raising it to match neighbors, correct?
That's correct, yeah.
so this is old?
That's December 1st.
Another stamp.
This is another December 1st here.
Was the vegetative plantings on that plan?
Do you have, does everybody have a copy of the DEC permit? Because that's the latest, it's,
I don't.
okay, I sent those in, but this is the,
This has got with the 8-inch raised height on the bulkheading?
But, I mean, there is a buffer here, am I correct?
10-foot, yeah.
Can I,
Yeah, this is,
this is your hot copy?
that's, yeah, you can have that, I printed that this morning.
So are you still doing a float? Because the December ones have the.
No, no more float,
Okay, so.
no float.
Can you,
We
Can
have
you get rid
the
of this?
Yeah,
This is out.
We have the DEC plans that have no float. It's
Yep.
just the proposed fixed pier at the top over here.
So I proposed 10-foot wide non-turf buffer, offsetted 10-foot
Independent cover
from
system.
base of bulkhead,
Because the cover
1
is
inch
supposed
wide
to,
bulkhead decking, so it's along the,
James, do you have this latest stuff?
I just have the DEC permit.
So you don't have, we don't have your
our
stuff?
own-
We don't have,
our own plans
I
stamped.
mean,
we don't have stamp plans from you.
I mean, you need a cover sheet too.
yeah,
So we don't have what we need
let me see.
to do anything.
Yeah, I thought the client, so
We
you
don't
don't
have-
have stamp,
we-
these plans stamped from the client? By an engineer stamp?
from the
No,
engineer.
not that I'm
So we don't
aware.
even have a cover sheet matching what the
No.
project is that you're requesting now. So we
No.
really, we can't act on anything right now. We need that stuff.
Jeff, this is the, what's been submitted, the character of work, and it
Right,
has a
right.
floating dock, and
Yeah, that's old.
that's all. So
Yeah, I
you-
thought I
you-
updated that.
No,
Can
we-
you
we
get this to us ASAP, and we'll put
Of
this on
course.
June 3rd,
Sure.
please?
Yes. Yeah,
Yes,
we-
To
of
make
course.
the cover sheet match what you got
This
going
plan.
on
Yeah,
there,
yeah.
make sure that it's engineer plan,
Okay.
that they're stamped and.
You know what? It's a good thing that you hung out today.
Yeah,
Russ,
of course.
Because you, it's,
Yeah.
this is like the most important, like, we need current plans and current application. It's a good thing you stayed.
Yeah, yeah, you know
Because
what?
somebody
the-
was supposed to send this to us.
the
and
client,
apparently
yeah.
Did not.
The client was taking care of getting his engineer to stamp the plans. I
And get
emailed
it
them
to
to him
James?
and get it to James.
It's a good
Yeah,
thing you
and the
waited.
cover
Yeah.
sheet that had.
I have to have a little better communication.
Can we
with
put
them.
this on for the 3rd?
Yes, absolutely, obviously.
Can you be here on the 3rd?
Sure, maybe.
Put it on for the third.
Yeah.
Let's hope so, we wanna get this resolved
yeah.
and move
Okay.
on.
The best thing is if you can get another one on it's with like Horowitz or Warner, and then maybe you get bumped up.
Yeah, right. Get a whole bunch of them. All right, no problem.
Thank you.
All right.
Good to
All
have
right.
you in town today.
I'll see you
Thank
guys.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, so Edward, you have a application for determination for final stamp plans here.
Yeah.
It's a Sandringham property?
That's a dock application, it's separate of the rock revetment. And that was within consultants.
Okay. They are stamped, are they proper?
And just make sure that between the dock and the rock revetment, there's a you know,
12 feet.
12 feet, yep, that's what we need for pedestrian and vehicular access. Yep, okay. Everything else should be,
Good to move it?
Yep, move it
Okay.
ahead.
All right, so that concludes the listed. We do have a very big agenda for executive session,
Can
though.
I just throw on one picture while we're all here?
You wanna throw a picture on?
Yeah, do you mind throwing that? Okay, that is this morning.
Oof.
That is this morning, Friday morning, it was just below the trigger. So that's been 2 days, and that's what the groundwater is gonna hold trigger.
We did have 3 inches of rain in areas east of.
No, I understand, but I'm just saying that like that rain was, I took a picture and it was just below the trigger.
Yeah,
Like after a day's rain and a rest period of a day. So it moved up a trigger mark with just groundwater.
Oh, it filters right in there.
Yeah, so,
It-
but this is where we're at right now, and if it gets into the middle of the black, that's when the mess starts. So, just so we all know where we're at, and
there is a nesting pair of birds with, on. that
one
are-
within 80 feet and one within
So
meters, sorry, 80 meters.
It's all on the feds right now. and it
Yes,
is-
everything's been submitted to both the
So-
EC and Fish and Wildlife, and to my understanding, they're under review.
The present nest, is it east or west of the cut?
West.
There's three.
It's
There's
west.
2 to the east and there's 1 to the west.
The one to the west is 80 meters to the
The other 2
cut
are
area.
about 120, 130 meters.
So for the public's information, we're discussing the Mecox Cut and the need to open the Mecox Cut. However, we are in the period of time where we are administering the Threatened and Endangered Species Program, and it's a federal regulations to protect these species of birds. And no government entity, no one is exempt from federal regulation. It's incumbent upon the landowner and regulatory authorities to make sure that you comply with the federal government. So, we're working on all different types of permits to remedy this situation, but right now, it requires a determination from U.S. Fish and Wildlife, the Army Corps, and the New York State DEC to grant a modification to our existing permits to allow us to go there and take the actions necessary to relieve Mecox Cut and get it to flow and relieve this high bay situation. So we have done what we could. Our environmental analyst has made the appropriate notifications, and it is now up to the senior biologists and all of the other experts that are attached to the other regulatory authorities that I listed to grant that modification so that we could take the actions necessary. Again, this is not a thing that you could, plan for. You have these rain events, you have a high water table, you have all this water working its way through the watershed.
And the birds.
And then you have the birds, which are also a part of Mother Nature here. And so we have to work with the variables that we have and do the best that we can, and it requires, again, everybody to get around the table.
And we should tell the public that we just opened it.
We did just open it, we just
We
had a
drained it.
successful opening of
It was a
drain.
great draining, and it went down to not right to the bottom, but there's so much groundwater right now, it spills right up.
This is something that's out of our control, but we're doing the best we can, and you cannot just take actions that are not, compliant with federal regulations, so we must do this.
3 weeks of east wind.
Yeah, we're doing the best that we can. Speak to, if anyone is having difficulties with this, they could speak to the federal government.
This is for the birds.
This is for the birds. It's
Can
for
we
the
hand
birds.
dig? Can we horse dig? Can we use horses to actually?
Do you have a permit for that? The answer is no.
We can't use
Do you need
horses?
The answer is no. We had to get authorization to hand dig, if I recall, a couple of years ago. You can't,
They did give it to us.
They did give it to us. And I was getting ready to declare an emergency myself, a medical emergency, because, it was quite more strenuous than it actually appears. But, yes, we're working on long-term solutions, but long-term solutions are just that, long-term solutions. This is emergency modifications. It requires people to let us do what we do best, and that is manage these things on the ground. So as soon as we get the okays from the federal government, hopefully the state will concur, and we will move forward.
Or we could have like a race, so it's like $2,500 wins it, whoever opens the cut first, by hand. By hand.
Sometimes this is
Come on,
a-
it'd be like a CrossFit.
Another scenario where less is more. You know?
Scott, didn't you already partake in this shoveling down
I
there?
did
We had to get
partake
some
in the
fancy
shoveling.
You need
TikTok
CrossFit,
videos
you
about
gotta
it.
bump it up other than you, Scott. I need some guys.
I left there red as a lobster that day.
Yeah.
It was about 90 degrees.
Yeah, red as a lobster. James and I were like the last two standing over there. We got it to flow for about 3 seconds and it all collapsed on us. But anyway, it was a valiant effort. Been there, done that. We need machinery to do this effectively, so. That being said, I think we should go to exec. Okay, so I made the motion, seconded by trustee McLaughlin. Are we all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we're gonna adjourn our meeting and go into exec for the purposes of discussing legal advice, litigation, personnel issues. Have a great.